The following program is brought to you in living color by Trek World.
Remember that in all of these videos, there's going to be a link in the description that you can go to where you will actually be taken to an affiliate link on Amazon showing you the availability of the books that I've been discussing. 1982. A single film would decide whether Star Trek lived or died. The first movie had been magnificent, but it was also monstrously expensive. Paramount wanted a sequel that cost half as much and hit twice as hard. In that crucible, a new kind of Trek was forged. Grittier, faster, more human. A story of revenge, mortality, and rebirth. A story that began not with an admiral, but with a writer named Nicholas Meyer, and a lean, determined crew who refused to fail. Alan Asherman's The Making of Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan isn't just a chronicle of how the movie was made. It's a record of how Star Trek found its heart again. Today, we open that log, page by page, to trace the rebirth of the Enterprise and the return of Star Trek itself. Now, Asherman's book was written in the heat of production, not years later when memories had softened. Published the same year that the film premiered, it reads sort of like a field report from inside the storm. At just over 150 pages, it races from concept to completion. Harve Bennett's challenge to make a better film at half the price. Nicholas Meyer's whirlwind script rewrite and the long nights on the soundstage where the bridge set came alive again. Fittingly, it's organized somewhat like a captain's log. Concise, chronological, full of terse observation and vivid quotes. Unlike later glossy tomes that would be published, this one feels immediate. A snapshot before nostalgia settled in. It captures the creative tension, the cautious optimism, and the sense that everyone involved knew that they were racing against the odds. He translates studio jargon into human story, people improvising under pressure, rediscovering why Star Trek mattered. He paints vivid portraits of Harve Bennett trimming budgets without cutting ambition, of ILM building nebula effects out of colored milk tanks, and of set designer Joe Jennings redressing the motion picture sterile corridors into something that looked more lived in and naval. Asherman also captures the emotional undertow. The crew is aging in real time. Kirk is confronting irrelevance, Spock contemplating sacrifice. The actors in the movie felt it too, and Asherman lets them speak in their own voices. Shatner calls the film Kirk's Reckoning. Nimoy calls it a meditation on friendship. Most remarkable is his coverage of the Genesis sequence, the very first fully computer-generated scene ever used in a motion picture. In just a few pages, he documents a revolution, describing how Lucasfilm's computer graphics group rendered every pixel of a newborn world. For fans in 1982, that was nothing short of science fiction coming true. Now, every chronicle has its blind spots. Asherman's was bound by studio oversight. Some of the real conflict stayed behind closed doors. Gene Roddenberry's diminished authority? Barely mentioned. The heated debates over Spock's death? Muted to just a single polite paragraph. For years, fans didn't know just how close Nimoy came to walking away for good. Visually, the book is Spartan. Black and white stills, a few candid shots, almost no design sketches. By modern standards, it feels bare bones, yet that restraint also kind of gives its charm. It's the voice of a journalist observing history, not curating myth. If you are searching for exhaustive technical diagrams or full-color concept art, later editions like the 2023 expanded volume fill some of those gaps. But Asherman's economy of detail gives the story velocity. You move through production at the same breakneck pace as the filmmakers themselves. It's not perfect, but then again, neither was the film's production. And maybe That's the point. And then come the pages that still crackle with electricity. The Enterprise versus Reliant battle. Asherman recounts how Nicholas Meyer reimagined Starfleet combat as submarine warfares. Dim bridges, clipped commands, sweat on foreheads. He quotes Meyer comparing Kirk and Khan to two captains hunting each other in the same fog. The book breaks down how ILM shot the miniatures. Multiple passes for lighting, weapon fire, and damage, all composited optically, frame by frame. You can feel the craftsmanship in every sentence. He devotes equal care to the Genesis cave, describing matte painters and model builders working in near darkness to create the illusion of paradise inside a rock wall. When he reaches the death of Spock, the tone does soften. Asherman describes the hush that fell over Stage 9, Shatner's voice breaking, Nimoy's hand trembling on the glass. There's no melodrama here, just reverence. The book lets the silence speak for itself. In that stillness, you'll understand why the film endures. By its final chapters, Asherman's tone shifts from reporting to reflection. The crisis is over, the mission succeeded. Star Trek had been reborn. He quotes cast and crew as they sense what they've accomplished. A film that feels intimate yet mythic, tragic yet hopeful. Critics would later call it the best of the series. But Asherman records it before its accolades, when the outcome was still uncertain. Historically, this book kind of stands at a crossroads. It is the last of the small format paperbacks that treated Trek as journalism, and the first to treat it as cinema worthy of scholarship. Without Asherman's groundwork, later volumes like The Art of Star Trek and The Wrath of Khan, The Making of the Classic Film, might never have existed. For fans who discovered it in 1982, these pages were a sacred text, proof that the dream hadn't died, that somewhere beyond Mutara Nebula, the Enterprise was still sailing. So in a nutshell, Jim, is Alan Asherman's Making of Star Trek II still worth reading? Absolutely. It's not glossy or comprehensive, but it's authentic. A time capsule from the bridge itself. Every page breathes the urgency of the artist who refused to accept the no-win scenario. For filmmakers, it's a study in the creative restraint. For Trekkies, it's scripture. The black and white photos, the candid quotes, the modest tone, they remind us that greatness doesn't always need spectacles, only sincerity. Star Trek II wasn't just a sequel, you see, it was a resurrection. And Asherman, notebook in hand, was there to witness it. 40 plus years later, the lessons still hold when you face your own Kobayashi Maru. Don't curse the test. Rewrite the program.